Okay, today we are going to look at simplifying fractions. So I want you to open up to page 14 in your packet. We're going to work through a couple pages today on simplifying fractions. Here it says to simplify is to put the fraction in its simplest form. Use what you've learned about equivalent fractions. So in previous lessons we found we compared fractions, we found equivalent fractions by multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same number. Well, today we can find equivalent fractions by finding what common divisor can go into both numbers. So equivalent fractions, we're going to find a common divisor. Okay, let's add that. Find common divisor. And so instead of multiplying to find equivalent fractions, we're going to divide to find simplest form and to simplify the fractions. A hint, we can find the greatest, sorry, it's a little cut off, the greatest common factor of the numerator and denominator and divide by that. Okay, so to find a common divisor. So if we want to simplify 4/8, what common divisor can go into both 4 and 8? And it says sometimes it can be one of the numbers in the fraction. Check this option out first. So 4, can 4 go into both numbers? Can the smaller number go into both numbers? We could say 4 goes into 4, and that's once. Or into means divide. Okay, can we divide? 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 goes into 8. How many groups of 4 go into that 8? 2 of them. Okay, so 4/8 can be simplified to 1/2. And remember, when we found equivalent fractions, we flip-flopped it, right? We had 1/2, and we found that 4/8 was that equivalent fraction because we multiplied the numerator and denominator by 4. Okay, so let's try an equivalent tryout. It says if we have 1/2, remember we multiply by 2, and we get 2/4. If we would have instead multiplied them by 3, we would have gotten 3/6. And if we would have multiplied 1/2 by 4, we would have gotten 4/8. So it says if you cannot divide the numerator and denominator with the same number, the fraction is already in simplest form. Okay? And a lot of times we're going to find that same number using that greatest common factor. Remember the greatest common factor, what times what gives us a number, right? And so we can find a greatest common factor of 10 and 15. Okay, so if we find our 10 and our 15 facts, and some of you probably already realize that there is a common factor. They both can be divided by 5. That could be our common divisor. Okay, but let me show you why that works. 10 is 1 times 10 and 2 times 5, right? 15 is 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. So they have a 1 in common and a 5 in common. But the greatest common factor is 5. So that's what we're going to divide by. And if we take 10/15 and we divide our numerator and our denominator by 5, 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3, because 2 times 5 is 10 and 3 times 5 is 15. So our simplified version is 2/3. Okay, then we could try those equivalents, right? 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6. So this would be the times 2's, right? If we multiply 2/3 by 3, we would get 6/9. If we multiply them by 4's, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4 is 12, we get 8/12. And if we multiply 2/3 by 5's, 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 5 is 15. So instead of finding the bigger equivalent numbers today to simplify, we go backwards. We divide to find that simplest form. Okay, let's look at the next one, 5/10. Well, we've already found our greatest or our common factors for 10, which is 1, 2, 5, and 10. And for a 5, it's just 1 and 5. So what do they have in common? A 5 and a 1, right? But we want the greatest. So the common divisor would be a 5. Okay, let me just zoom in here a little bit for you. Whoop, that didn't focus. Let's try it again. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, here we go. So we can divide the 5 by 5 and the 10 by 5. What is 5 divided by 5? 1. 10 divided by 5, or what times 5 is 10, is 2. So simplified, we have 1/2. If I took this and wanted to find these equivalent fractions for 1/2, if I multiplied 1/2 by 2 on my numerator and denominator, I would get 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. If I took that 1/2 and instead multiplied by 3's, 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. If I would multiply by 4's, I get 4/8. And if I multiply by 5's, 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. And that's where we were at, right? So dividing by 5 got me back to that 1/2, which was our simplified fraction, or our simplest form. Okay? Remember, if they don't have anything in common, no common factor, then it's already simplest form. Let's take a look at the next one, 2/8. Well, I notice both of these are even numbers, right? If my numerator and denominator are even, if numerator, we're going to write a note. If a numerator and denominator are even numbers, you can divide by 2. Okay, oops, sorry. You can divide by 2. But it may not be simplified. Meaning you might need to divide it again and again and again by 2. Okay? So here, if I take a common divisor of 2, and I divide my numerator and denominator by 2 for 2/8, 2 divided by 2 equals 2. Equals 1. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. And if my numerator is down to a 1, it has to be simplest form. Okay? So simplified, this would be 1/4. But if I look down at number 5, and I take my 8 and my 16, because they're both even numbers, and divide it by 2, I get 4/8, which, looking back up here is not a simplest form, right? Simplest form was 1/2. So I could really divide this again by 2. Or I could find the common factor and divide by my greatest common factor. If I would have found my greatest common factor for these, take a look. 1 times 8 and 2 times 4 are my factors for 8. 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4 are my factors for 16. The greatest common factor is 8. So had I taken 8/16 and divided by 8 at first, I would get my simplest form. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 16 divided by 8 is 2. And notice, look, half here, because when I divided by 2, I got to 4/8, which was, see up here? But the simplest form of it is 1/2. So if we divide by our greatest common factor, we're going to get simplest form right away. Here with the 4/8, I could divide by 2 again, but then I only get 2/4, which was up here as well. I would divide by 2 again, and then I get 1/2. But notice all the steps I needed to divide 3 different times, right, to get that. Okay. Let's try 9/12. Let's see if we can find our greatest common factor and use that. So we have 9/12. 1 times 9 and 3 times 3 are my factors of 9. For 12, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4 are my factors of 12. So what is the greatest they have in common? They have a 1, a 3 in common, right? Nothing else. So my common divisor I'm going to use is 3. So I'm going to divide by 3 for both. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Remember, you can flip it. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. It's important we know our multiplication and division facts. Okay. Then my simplest form is 3/4. Okay. Let's look at the next page and try some more simplifying. Remember, we're going to use our greatest common factor to simplify. Because if we use our greatest common factor, we will get simplest form right away. Okay, otherwise we're going to have to do multiple steps for dividing. So let's look at 3/9. 3 and 9. My factors of 3, 1 times 3. My factors of 9, 1 times 9, and 3 times 3. Okay, what do they have in common? A 3 and a 1. My greatest common factor is 3. And that is going to be my common divisor. So let's divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So simplest form of 3/9 is 1/3. Okay. 4/6. Let's try 4 and 6. 1 times 4, 2 times 2. For 6, 1 times 6, 2 times 3. They have a 2 in common and a 1 in common. Let's divide by the biggest, the 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. My simplest form of 4/6 is 2/3. 8/12. 8/12. Let's take a look. My factors of 8 and my factors of 12. Factors of 8. 1 times 8. 2 times 4. 1 times 12. 2 times 6. 3 times 4. Here's all of my factors. What do they have in common? A 1, 2, and a 4. So let's divide the 8 by 4 and the 12 by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 8/12 is equal to 2/3. Okay. Let's take a look here at number 4. 9/21. 9/21. We already had our factors of 9 right up here. 1, 3, 9. My factors of 21. 1 times 21 and 3 times 7. So what do they have in common? A 1 and a 3. We will divide by 3 to find our simplest form. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Okay. What I would like you to do today is I want you to try a couple of these on your own. I want you to get lined paper out, okay? And you're going to use the greatest common factor to find simplest form. So let's find a simplest form. Oops, sorry. Simplest form of page, what page is that? 15, okay, of page 15. And I want you to try, let's see here. I want you to try number 6, 8, and 9. 6, 8, and 9. So on lined paper, I want you to write 4/20ths. And you're going to tell me what simplest form is. So find your 4s, find your 20s, right? Divide by the common factor. Then you're going to do that for 18/30ths. And, sorry about that, it keeps going off, and 10/16ths. Okay, those 3. When you are done with that, turn it in.